The only cold open topic I can think of is the Try Guys thing.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's so fresh.
Do we want to cover that?
I don't know.
It feels weird covering. We don't usually do
Current events.
breaking news type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The people on the street are clamoring for our opinions about this
On the
game.
Try Guys.
2 months from now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, Kalia might. I don't know.
I got
that's
something
right.
on. I got something on the Try Guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to just go? I mean,
Yeah. Go
Oh,
for
sure,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well, so like, obviously, one of the member of the, huge internet video collective known as the Try Guys is currently being soft canceled for trying to cheat on his wife, and I think succeeded. But frankly, having worked before, I was in podcasting in the mines of web video for a decade. The thing that I would like to cancel them for is from being forged in the bowels of the juggernaut of the BuzzFeed video department, being among the ground zero for the soy face YouTube thumbnail.
Are they like the patient zero? Is that where it comes from?
I don't know if they are the true originators, but they are the ones through the analytic wizardry of the BuzzFeed video department refined it to a grim science. And back in my video production days, I would go to seminars like at the Google headquarters from like actual YouTube executives, and they would do like slide after slide of optimizing your page, creating the most optimal headlines, the most optimal video lengths, positioning, the times for releases, all the stuff of like the gamifying, like building community. But in the end, the bottom line, absolute one and only suggestion for making it big on YouTube from everybody knowledgeable that I ever talked to was, you got to have a thumbnail with the Goo Goo Gaga face. That's the only way you can make a big YouTube channel. And I think that those guys, if not solely responsible, were the people,
the pioneers. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones who really pushed that to be the only way you can sell a YouTube video online.
Yeah.
And for that, they should be ejected from society.
Yeah, good riddance.
I got it mixed up. I thought they came from College Humor. I knew it was something along those kinds of lines, but yeah, BuzzFeed is. That makes a lot more sense, I guess.
Did the Try Guys? What was their whole gimmick? Because like I think just like a vague like buzzing around my head, like I've heard of them before.
You mean like the Try Guys? Like what did that group do?
Yeah, like what was theirs?
Just they'd like, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go to their YouTube because it's so.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that.
All over the place, but they would try things like.
Yeah,
they weren't like the Kids React guys, were they? Those are different guys.
Same era though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so eventually it would get up to like the Try Guys like try skydiving, but the original things were like the Try Guys try dressing like women for a week, or try being chefs, or try
I gotcha.
whatever that kind of stuff was.
Try to make rib.
They try Russian roulette.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't show this one to Kalia. I don't know. Welcome back to ThereWillBeDuds. This is episode 70. I am your co-host, TJ, aka J-Spot Jack Cheese, and with me as always.
I'm Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch, and with me as always in the same room.
I am Connor. I'm Bingo Bronson 420.
And with us as a special guest.
Oh, hello. I am Chris Wade. Probably most well known for being the producer of a show called Chapo Trap House, but I also host and produce several other pods, including and introducing with my lovely wife Molly, and another pod with Molly called Infinite Cast, in which she is slowly reading Infinite Jest to me on mic. About to hit episode 100 on that. And I do a bunch of other shit too, but those are the things that I would be on a podcast for.
Awesome.
Nice. Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
We,
thank you.
Appreciate
Glad to be
it.
here.
And Chris brought in this week's movie for us. Well, he recommended it. He didn't. I don't think he.
I did
made
physically deliver it to you.
it. Right. And that movie is 1968's Head, directed by Bob Rafelson. It is the feature film debut of the band The Monkees. It is a dispersed series of vignettes, comedic vignettes, I suppose. There is a thin story, but it plays a lot like an episode of Monty Python, or
Yes.
Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. So, yeah, that's it. We'll let you take it away. Start us off, Chris.
Yeah, so I became familiar with this movie. I was like visiting a buddy in college, and like after we'd hung out I was like sleeping on his couch, and everybody had gone to bed, and I was just like scrolling through the channels, and I saw this thing, and it was like immediately striking for both being very, very recognizably 60s, but almost immediately having this odd and very unique surreality to it. And then after watching it for 30 seconds, I'm like, wait, are those the Monkees starring in this movie? So then I like watched it all the way through, and then later in my life, like actually sought it out to watch again, knowing what it is. And I've become fascinated with this film as I think one of the great comedies, American comedies, especially of the 60s, just for how specific it is to how it is generated, the Monkees making a movie, but also it's very specific, cynical showbiz satire. It's wild fact that it is one of the earliest writing credits of one Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Directed by American cinematographic legend Bob Rafelson, and just a very fascinating document of a kind of Hollywood skewering 60s counterculture from people who were directly in the center of the pop machine of the 60s, the most plastic of pop groups, creating something that is like wildly satirical. That I think maybe a better name for this would be like Escape from Hollywood or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what you guys think about this, because I have no idea if you were familiar with this movie beforehand, but it's always one that I keep coming back to as a kind of undersung gem of 60s counterculture.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I was aware of it. I'm aware of the Monkees, but no, didn't know any sort of like the content. I think that what you said, the criticism and like kind of takedown of the Hollywood machine, it really surprised me, something from like this early and this like commercial, from such a kind of poppy like mainstream type band was really surprising. I had a
literally
question.
manufactured band.
Yeah, literally. I had a question for you. Have you seen the show, and or do you know is this how the show was too, or was that more like a structured normal sitcom?
The show, I have seen like one or two episodes of the show. I am by no means a Monkees super fan, and I know that those
Sure.
people exist. There are people who, outside of Head, swear up and down on the quality of the Monkees in general, but the show and their musicianship, outside of it being like, basically a manufactured group to sell ad slots on TV and lunchboxes and stuff like that. And the Monkees themselves are talented musicians and have great pop songs. To them.
Yeah, there's some good songs.
But the few episodes of the show I've seen, I would say that the show is more, it's not really traditional sitcom, but it has a level of zaniness to it that is consistent with this, but it is nowhere near as surreal and, satirical, cynical, critical.
Would the show be more akin to like A Hard Day's Night? That movie? Have you seen that?
Kind of. It's like the network sitcom version of A Hard Day's Night.
Okay, I could dig that because I really like Hard Day's Night.
It certainly doesn't have repeated use of the infamous Saigon execution.
I
clip
was
in
just
it.
about to say.
Oh my god.
My
Okay.
jaw
Yeah.
was like on the floor when that
I
I know,
sequence.
it's pretty wild, right?
I was
I ran to IMDb to check like what the rating was. I was like, just apropos of it, just like came out of nowhere, no warning at all.
It's
Yeah.
and it's rated
Violent
G.
execution
It's so funny that it's like it's
I
rated
know.
G in the sense that like 2001: A Space Odyssey is
Yeah.
rated G, where it's like they didn't really have the MPAA like super figured out. They're like, I guess I don't know, G,
And that-
I guess.
And then they
It's the
show it
Monkees,
again
right?
too. They don't just
Yeah.
show
No,
it
it-
once.
Yeah, they indulge on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
I watched it with Kalia, my wife, and she'd seen it when she was a kid, but she hasn't seen it in years. And when it got to that, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I said it like out loud, and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Do you not know what that was?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, "That's a real execution. That's like a real person died." She was like, "Oh, that's
I was-
weird."
I was
Yeah, that
baffled.
movie's got that in it.
Yeah.
Several
Well,
times.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so perfect too, because like in that opening sequence, you kind of see clips of the entire movie, like in like the little TV screens.
yeah.
And even the song that they're singing in that sequence is just like yes, we're manufactured, and yes, we realize it, and we're gonna tell you this story, and like it's like I don't know, the fact that like they were so good at like even satirizing themselves, because like from what I read, this movie like completely alienated like fans of the Monkees. Like I'm just trying to picture like a parent taking like their 14-year-old daughter to the theater. It's like, oh yeah, the Monkees movie, cool. My daughter loves this shit, and then it's like, yeah, like one of the Viet Cong just getting his brains blown out, and it's just like nothing about this really screams kids movie, because like there's like deep philosophical discussions, like just like uninterrupted
Nature
straight
of
into the camera.
mind-body problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've like, I've obviously been fascinated with this, and I've read a lot into it, and the generalized accounts of how this came into being. There are from different Monkees at different times, you'll get a different account of whether like they were kind of contractually obligated to make this, but by time it was going into production, it was clear that the Monkees phenomenon had kind of peaked and was now cresting or like falling, but they still had to make the movie. Like by the time the movie comes out, the series has been canceled. So it's like they're no longer like they're very much on the other side of their popularity. So then it's kind of a matter of who you ask and when, whether like this movie was the thing that killed them, or it was something that they were intentionally making to try to escape from the Monkees imagery, as the popularity of it was already like cresting and falling. What direct relationship those things had, but at least when they went into production of it, they wanted writing credits on it. The Monkees themselves, they felt that it was a sincere reflection of what they wanted to put on screen. So yeah, I'm more inclined to think that this represents how they felt about being the Monkees at the end of the Monkees' peak popularity.
That makes a lot of sense. I got one of the few clips of this movie I had seen was actually like, when you go to like an Alamo Draft House and they'll show like random. It was like during a screening at a movie, and they were doing like a silence your cell phones type thing, and the scene when I think Mickey.
The execution scene.
No, it was Mikey or Mickey. Sorry,
Mickey Dolenz.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's like the desert sequence, which might be like the biggest laugh I got out of the entire movie.
It's really
when
great.
When the dude rides up on the horse, and then is like, it was like a silence your cell phone sequence, and it was like, shh, and then he rides off. So it's like, shit, that's
right.
that's where that comes from.
Okay.
Yeah, Mickey Dolenz' physicality. I think he's kind of the best part of the movie.
I think
terms of,
his sequences were like my
comedic
favorite.
mass.
Him and Michael Nesmith, I thought, were like both like pretty good.
Yeah.
Peter Tork
I mean,
was all right.
they all had their moments.
I thought David
Yeah.
Jones
definitely
was like not a good actor though.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think they all have their strengths. I think that it is remarkable the amount to which they play it. This does play like a Monty Python bit, considering the fact that Flying Circus doesn't premiere until the year following it. That how much they play as an ensemble, how good of comedic chops they all have, even if you don't really know anything about the Monkees. And then even if I think Davy Jones is great, but even if he's your least favorite comedian, his like song and dance numbers in the movie are out of this world.
I did really dig the Nilsson song that he did, the Daddy's song. That was I really like that
shot
sequence.
And everything is fantastic.
The alternating between the black and white was really cool.
Yeah. And then like I feel like there's even a moment in that song that like he kind of it gets quiet and he gets kind of on his knees and he's like singing this like heartfelt like sentimental thing, and then it just kicks right back to like it's like okay dance.
The song is like pretty dark. Like that's like Nilsson's sort of shtick is like writing really happy poppy melodies with these like dark undertones in the lyrics and
right.
And then he immediately walks out and sees Frank Zappa leading like a cow or a horse, and he tells him that was pretty
on your
white.
Music, man. Yeah. The kids depend on you to give them good music.
That was like the other thing that I knew about this movie was that Frank Zappa was in it, because I think Michael Nesmith starred in a Zappa movie as well. I think they kind of cross promoted each other. I know Ringo played Frank in I think it was 200 Motels.
200 Motels, yeah.
So I knew they
200 Motels.
It's I've seen bits and pieces. It's strange. It's very strange. If that's not in the cup, that should be, because there's some Zappa stuff that's wild.
Yeah, it should be. I'll write that down. I wanted to say too, I didn't mean to shit on Davey in general, and I wanted to add that even though I did think his acting was I still enjoyed his presence on screen. It wasn't like I was like, "Oh my god, get this guy off!"
I think I was comparing it to the Pythons because everybody has a different favorite Python, because they all bring like a slightly different energy that flavors the kinds of things that they can do.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
like Mickey Dolenz is really good at the physical stuff. Michael Nesmith is more kind of dry, like the actual humor.
I think that's why he was my favorite. Yeah.
Peter Tork is like the
somewhere
weird, surreal shit, like with the ice cream.
That
was probably my favorite part in the whole movie.
Hey, what's wrong?
What's wrong with you?
I asked you first.
I ordered this and I don't want it.
Throw it away.
I can't. They're a starving
Chinese.
This is serious.
At least from him.
Yeah, like this is a movie that I'm going to have to like come back to like on multiple viewings, because I feel like there are so many strange like blink and you miss it things that like, oh shit, I didn't even realize like this was going on in the background, or like
it's one of those movies that when you go in not really knowing what it is, it's just so like kind of mind blowing, and you can't really figure out what the movie is until you've seen it once, and then if you see it again, you're like, all right, now let me like really look and see what they're doing, and this viewing through it, the thing that like jumped out at me is how much. As I said, it's like escape from Hollywood, right? And the first time you go through, you're just kind of blindsided as they go through like all these genre films, and I was just really thinking about how much this was about like the artificiality of Hollywood, where they'll like keep on setting up like, okay, now we're gonna do a Western sketch, and then like completely breaking the kayfabe of the Western, or like the suspended reality of it, and just like literally walking through set walls and stuff. How many different classic genres of Hollywood movies they hit throughout it.
Hey, lady, come on, get up. Stop acting.
Hey, what is this?
Hey, come on. Stop playing. It's all over. It's an act. Come on, get up.
Well, stop kicking me.
Oh, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Oh, these fake arrows and this junk and the fake trees. Bob, I'm through. Oh, stinks, man.
Hey, well, Mickey, wait a minute. Well, Mickey, wait a minute, man. I'm with you. Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I also really enjoyed I think it was like one of the diner scenes where they're just like talking nonsense to like the woman behind the counter, just like, yeah, I'll have some crispy mushrooms and some gravy with a hair in it. And then I think I can't remember if it was before or after like the boxing sequence where he's
with the actual Sonny Liston.
Yeah, he's like telling him to stay down, and he won't stay down, so he has to go into the ring himself and knock him out.
Yeah,
and then he just like starts punching everybody.
Yeah.
And then he like punches the waitress, and then it's another one of those moments like you hear the set bell ring and everyone just kind of breaks character, and he has this existential crisis where he's just like, yeah, but I hit a woman. Like, is that good? What do you guys think about that? Like, is that weird? It's like I don't feel good about that.
I don't feel good about that, Bob. I just don't think.
And
like,
no one's listening to him.
Yeah, exactly. People coming up for like autographs and stuff.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this is to your daughter, okay. And then he asks Davey, and he's like, oh yeah, no, I thought it was terrific. It was great, thanks. And he walks off.
Is that where we get the little, because there's like the blink and you miss it, Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper cameos.
Yeah,
were they? I knew they were in it. Okay.
Yeah,
they
literally
in the background of that diner scene.
Yeah, that you can't even like, they don't even really have any lines, but they're there.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's the other wild thing about this movie is that it is like the forge of the creative partnership between Raffleson, Nicholson, and Hopper that immediately leads to Easy Rider. Like the next year or something. Like this really is like Easy Rider origins basically, but contained wholly within the fake commerciality of the Monkees.
Yeah.
Man, imagine if you swapped that and the Monkees were an Easy Rider, and then it was
Oh my
Nicholson,
God.
Hopper, and Peter Fonda.
I mean, I'm imagining a version in which this was successful, because this was a monster flop, and yes, did like absolutely kill the Monkees as like a commercial viability for a time. But if this had been like successful and you're doing like Easy Rider with the Monkees as the like main ensemble, which that could have maybe worked. Who knows? I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the same movie, but
You have to have all four of them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I did sort of like the imagery of them like being in the box.
Yes.
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
the black
vacuum?
box. Yeah.
Because it's like a physical box, but also like people putting them in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I picked up on that
fuck.
I know, right? Actually,
figure
Chloe
that
had to
one out,
point
bro?
that out to me. She's like, "Oh yeah, they're in a box," and I was like, "Yeah." She's like, like metaphorically. It's like, oh, and they laid it on so thick that I missed it.
And apparently, like the idea of that came from the fact that on the set for the Monkees TV show, they needed a place to like hold them while they were changing sets, so they literally built a big box on the side of the set that they could go hang out in, and that box had like couches in it, and they were allowed to like smoke in it or whatever. But that's where the idea of just being like corralled in this box, and it is really like the narrative arc, as much as there is one, is basically one of the like one or multiple of them finding themselves in a new like parody satirical movie situation, whether it's like a Lawrence of Arabia scene or a Western scene or an army scene or a big song and dance number, completing a joke within that scene, trying to walk off set or leave or escape, and then finding themselves trapped in the beginning of the new
on like a new
scene.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The birthday scene at the end when he like freaks out on them for singing Happy Birthday and surprising him.
Yeah, I love that scene.
It made me think of like this is like proto I Think You Should Leave, the way that like he kind of gets like it's my birthday and I don't like being surprised, and it just like it seemed very like Tim Robinson ranty like as he was going on and everything, but then everyone is like and they start
Happy birthday. Ha! And I'll tell you something else, too. The same thing goes for Christmas. Now, How about them apples?
Yeah.
I was surprised at how, I guess, I don't know if like sensual or erotic is the right word, but like I felt like they were immediately trying to kill like the whole like wholesome image of them like right off the bat, because like
The boy band.
they're like, well, it's like it starts, well, the first time you see them, they're like just making out with some random woman.
Yeah,
Who's, like,
and then
and then
does the rounds. Yeah.
and I was like, I thought these guys were like the squeaky clean, like, hey, we're the Monkees kind of thing. And then there's like another scene of like people like belly dancing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like, I had to keep reminding myself like, this is rated G. Like I feel like
That's
you
so
know, right.
insane. Yeah.
Like this would at least be probably R just for the Viet Cong thing.
I mean, and
Yeah.
then
But
another favorite sequence of mine, not long into it, is they're shown like running into a gig where they're going to play an auditorium, and it's then intercut with them literally running into a battle, like an army scene.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
it comes
that's
back to the gig, and they go on stage and they play, I think, a really great song called "Circle Sky," which is like pretty
I love that
hard and
song.
rocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as they're like, and it keeps intercutting with like the screaming hysterical girls in the audience, and then as the song wraps up, the girls charge the stage, and there's a pretty clever little intercut where they all become mannequins, and they're just like literally ripped apart and like clothes being ripped off of them. It is very silly and goofy, and it's like they're obviously mannequins that are being ripped apart, but there is a sense of like Raffleson really gives it a sense of violence to it that is unsettling.
Yeah.
And, that's what they're trying to get at, is that they're literally being ripped apart, and it's not a subtle imagery, but
Yeah.
it's kinetic in a way that is, I think, pretty visceral in this movie. Coupled with that kind of freak outy song.
even like the opening sequence when he like jumps off the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a couple, because I was like, is that it's not the San Diego bridge, but still, like, even in like there's a wide shot of him falling off the bridge, and like you can see a net underneath it, and I'm like, he would probably not survive like a fall that far. And then there's like another sequence where like there's a woman standing on the thing, and she's like, I'll do it. I'll really do it. I'll jump. And he's like, oh, where's Davy? And they're like, oh, we're taking bets to see if she'll jump or not. I don't think she will.
That's right.
And it's like, it's a very good visual gag, because I think she does end up jumping, and like he catches her.
Yeah.
And then like
right
someone shows up
And
then he starts a conversation with someone else and just like hands her off to somebody else. And then he's following. He's like, hey, he's like still behind her. It was good. A lot of committing to the bit in this movie.
The sense of like the real sense of chaos and often violence or threats of violence in the movie. Even the sequence where Mickey is lost in the desert, and he's like searching water, and it pans up and there's a Coke machine there. It goes
starts
up.
playing the music.
Yeah,
but it's
I know.
empty.
But it's empty. Yeah, I mean that whole thing is just like such a great gag. But then it's immediately, he's found by an Italian guy in a tank who then surrenders the entire Italian army to him. And then Mickey gets in the tank and immediately turns the turret and blows up the Coke machine. Like that whole thing is just like a perfect little arc of visual gags of like desperation and then relief, and then more desperation and then relief, and then more desperation and then a spectacular act of violence. Like it has an energy to it that I really don't think existed in American comedic sensibilities, for another 15 years after it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how like a cult movie is born. It's like people that saw it.
for
There are
real.
probably people at the time that saw it and were like, holy shit, this is radical. But I mean, I was reading like reviews of it, and I think someone even said it was like, and I sort of agree to an extent, but they were using it to say that it sucked, but it was just like the anti like Hard Day's Night, like anti Beatles movie. Because I mean, I would say Hard Day's Night, I do like that movie, and it's
Hard Day's
it's
Night's
pretty
great.
funny, but it's played it's still zany and like has those sort of gags, but it's played way more straight.
Yeah, it's
like
more
this
safe.
movie
right.
is.
I
Well,
would say their second movie, Help, it's still safe. There's no executions in it, but
Yeah.
I have that in the cup too, but I would recommend Help if you want like a more akin to this, because Help is a lot more disjointed and weird and like regarding like magical rings and like death cults that are trying to like sacrifice Ringo Starr and stuff.
Holy
it gets
shit.
pretty wild. And it's more like kind of vignette, like separated vignettes like this is.
But I
more
would say
so
like
than Hard Day's Night.
but I would say like the difference, the difference between the Beatles movies and the Monkees movies is that the Beatles movies can get pretty wacky, but there is still a sincerity to them that the Beatles are cool. And the Monkees movie, even though I think the performers have a confidence in it that they themselves are like cool, funny, and good musicians, there is no sincerity to this movie that the Monkees are cool. It's it's like this is all fake and mostly very, very stupid. And anything that we try to do that is serious or to get ourselves taken seriously is completely ignored. A detriment to our intentions. The things that we are asked to do are ridiculous, like when they get led down that dark corner and suddenly realize they're in a giant fake scalp and are supposed to be dandruff, and they're just they're all in like white suits and a big fake hair set, and they're just being yelled at from off screen like, "Shake around, boys, jump up and down."
You're supposed to be dandruff.
Yeah.
On Giant Victor or whatever.
Yeah,
Victor,
and then
when it turns out it was actually a full giant dude.
Yeah,
and there were some cool like
unsettling.
visual effects, the way that like the vacuum like sucks them all up too. Like there was some like decent like green screen kind of like editing tricks that obviously look, they're from 1968, but I was like, damn, that looks pretty good.
I mean, in the context of the full like visual tone of the movie, the giant guy looks pretty good. Them floating down the vacuum looks pretty good. Obviously the like psychedelic color effects of the intro and outro, and then a few other points where they have some kind of like psychedelic color schemes. I think it's when Peter is going down that hallway with the Andy Warhol Mylar balloons. It's so funny as we just keep recalling things that happen in this. If you've not seen this movie, like you can tell how insane. Like every 2 minutes there is like a new visual idea and sketch, and it's just like these four fucking funny guys just deadpanning off of it, and it is one of them. I keep saying it's like one of the best. It's like of this era, just like one of the most advanced American comedies there is. It like really presaged what like an Adult Swim show would be 40 years later.
That's exactly what.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were talking about some of those before, and I almost referenced Xavier Renegade Angel, like weird this gets. I would say Xavier's weirder, but it's like seems like it could have I could see them like taking inspiration from this, or kind of like a sort of evolution of this,
and I mean some of the segments I think hit harder than others do, but even as it gets weird,
for sure.
weird and wackier, like every bit has like a conceived like set up punchline joke to it, and so in the form, in the along with the best absurdist comedies, it's like the details of everything can get way out there, and it can get more disjointed and more surreal, but there's still like a premise and a setup and a punchline to everything they do, which is why I feel like it feels so successful and modern.
Yeah. I mean, it's way ahead of its time for a 1968 film.
It uses like the psychedelics and surrealism to like serve the movie rather than just to be the whole.
Here's some cool visual
draw
tricks
of the
that
movie,
we've got.
I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not just like cutting to it's not just like wasting time by like cutting to a bunch of like mod girls in mini dresses, go dancing and with wacky color filters over it. It's like everything has a flow,
Yeah.
a recognizable
Yeah.
flow to it, where you can see where one idea starts and then it stops, and how it moves
Yeah.
into another and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think one of the sequences made me think of the tunnel sequence from Willy Wonka and or is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Hey, I never get
Willy
those
Wonka.
two. Yeah, like the tunnel sequence with like the chicken getting its head cut off and like the eyeballs and the psychedelic colors. Yeah.
So, all right, I keep going back to the Viet Cong thing. I was just thinking of somebody editing in that execution to Willy Wonka.
I mean, I appreciate this movie for going there and being like, no, this is what kind of movie it is. It is like, and I imagine what they're trying to do in some way is being like placing the artificiality of the Monkees with the artificiality of how war is portrayed in media on TV. I mean, that's like my most sophisticated read, granting them the most sophistication that I think that it could be granted to them for that. I do think it is, even within the context of what they're doing here, a little, maybe exploitative to be like, yes, the fakeness of the Monkees TV show is just like the, how this war is being manufactured by images cobbled together from your screen,
Yeah.
like this image of this man being executed. Because
Well,
that guy
and
still got
it's-
shot.
it's
and they
wild.
were just the Monkees.
Yeah.
It's wild because it's like, yeah, we think of that as like historical film now, but that was like a couple of years old at that point.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
if they put an ISIS beheading in Transformers. it's like wild to think that you would
Or
just
the One Direction
do something
movie.
like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
What is it? Don't worry, darling, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the Abu Ghraib sequence in Don't Worry, Darling? But no, I mean, I will say that is the stuff that was like the most striking to me, because like if you would have told me ahead of time that this is, do you guys want to hear like the Monkees' take on manufacturing consent? I would have been like, okay, yeah, sign me up, I'm in, because like even like the cheerleading sequence was so.
Oh yeah, give
It was
me
like
a
W
Yeah.
A R, what's that spell? War. Smash cut to like
Yeah.
them in like the trenches.
And
I was
just
like, oh
and
my
like
god.
with napalm being dropped and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, and I have to imagine that that's maybe more of the Nicholson input than them. I'm imagining, because the legend behind how this movie got made was, that they had to do the movie. Raffleson was one of the directors for the Monkee show. Raffleson brought in Nicholson, who hung out with them for a long time and like observing their whole deal. And then they all 6 of them went out to some house in Palm Desert over a weekend with reportedly copious amounts of weed. And then they just all riffed into a tape recorder. And then Nicholson took those tapes and wrote a script off of it, reportedly with a substantial amount of LSD. So I think that, like, again, this is all just my imagination. My imagination is like the Hollywood stuff is very the Monkees, just talking about their experiences. Again, escape from Hollywood experiences.
Yeah.
And then some of the more like commentary stuff is maybe more of a Nicholson's thing. But again, I think that they all went into the filming of it being like, this is the movie we want to make.
Yeah.
If we have to make a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on some level they probably understood like the anti-war message, but
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like,
I'm sure
yeah.
they got what the message
but
was.
only insofar as it related to like, yeah, that's just like our experience.
Yeah, that's the more unchair if they were like actually like thinking like, yeah, that's just like us without any sort of like awareness about it.
I imagine it's more
Yeah.
like it's just like us, and we're just another thing you see on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not that as like we've suffered as much, but we are just like, yeah, and there's a repeated motif in the movie of like a disembodied hand clicking through channels on a TV, which I think drives that home, of being like, you just see all this stuff coming through the exact same channel, and somehow we are a part of it. And you could click one channel over and see napalm falling, and those are just two images that you see together, and we're just making it a little more explicit,
Right. they're just another product. Like,
yeah, because I think even with the like you say Lawrence of Arabia kind of section, there, I think before that it's just like 3 different commercials for like Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
Or something,
Yeah, Encino Ford.
Yeah, Encino Ford.
Yeah,
This is the largest Ford dealership click. There's like a bunch of old movie clips in there, and this movie's so good. It's like such a high recommendation. You know, I feel like this would be a controversial take, but I feel like this gives you a better idea of where like culture was at that moment at the wind down of the 60s than Easy Rider, because it's in such more pure communication with media and pop culture rather than some, you know, I mean, I think Easy Rider is great, but you know, it in a way that is it's supposed to be realistic, but it is also a fantasy of the time, rather than a bunch of people deeply embedded inside the media sphere being like, no, this is what this is the slop we're actually serving you.
Yeah, I mean, there was like the sequence where they were kind of walking through this industrial plant, and this guy's kind of talking to him, and he says something like, you know, the youth of the day, all they want is pleasure, and they want it on demand, and like you may get exactly what you want. And it's just like, oh shit, okay, well that's pretty accurate. And then like,
which is intercut with like guys in the plant like opening a faucet and like sewage water like pouring out of it, and then just like slurping down the cup of it and going like,
Yeah, I think when he says pleasure, there's like a shot of someone like coming down on a hunk of meat with a cleaver. So it's like, damn, okay, laying it on thick. And I mean, including Zappa in this at all is also indicative of that, because his like, I mean, you listen to those early Mothers albums, and like shitting on like the phoniness of the counterculture at the time was like his bag. Yeah, like you listen to like We're Only in It for the Money and like Absolutely Free and like those albums. That's like, that was his whole shtick.
Right.
And like he I think I'm trying to think because like I have his book, and I'm not sure if he mentions Michael Nesmith in there at all, because I think he liked him. I think he was a fan. I think he understood that, like, because like the whole thing with the Monkees was that, you know, people kind of found out, I was like, oh, they're not actually recording their instruments, they're just this kind of like, you know, cardboard cutout band. And I think Michael Nesmith kind of like took that to heart, and I think they all eventually did like learn their instruments, and they put out albums and music. And I think Nesmith was touring.
If my Monkees lore is correct, they were cast primarily as actors, but they all could actually play the instruments that they were cast to do. And as the show and albums went on, they asserted more play on everything until they were actually the band that they were cast to be. And then they continued touring for decades afterwards, playing the Monkees songs as themselves. Like they were, and so it's like, it was always this constant tension of like, yes, it only exists because it was cast, but they were actually that band, you know, and they, as time went on, like, you know, I think very rightly resented it's kind of like, as they became more the band themselves, people got more fed up with them as, quote, fake, which obviously would drive anyone who considers themselves a professional entertainer on both those levels insane. And I think it's one of the reasons that you wind up with a movie like this. Now, I'm sure if any hardcore Monkees fans are listening to me, I might have my details off. It's been a long time since I did a big Monkees lore and progress dive, but my understanding is that they were all, by the end of the show, like, they were the band.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's cool. That's
how I understand it too.
That alone, like the IRL story, is like, that's just kind of a really unique, interesting, like, band origin, like completely backwards. It's like,
I mean, it would be a good fodder for like an actual biopic of them. Yeah, I mean, no biopic.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not one.
It would actually be as wild and cool as Head, but it would perhaps give you the chance to do what I believe the central joke of the name of the movie is, which is that if they ever had a sequel, they could advertise it as From the People Who Gave You Head.
Yeah,
we'll have to get Jack Nicholson on the horn here.
yeah. What's that guy? Up
Yeah, maybe
to?
he has a sequel script laying around somewhere.
He needs to do something so his last movie isn't the bucket list. He needs to have something else.
Oh my god, I don't know what's worse, that or like Gene Hackman leaving on Welcome to Mooseport. It could have been the Royal Tenenbaums.
There's a lot of rough ones. Orson Welles with the Transformers movie.
Hey, that movie's kind of cool.
Is it? I mean, okay, I haven't seen it, but it's one of those that is
Those two
referenced.
things together, it's because
Yeah.
it's like you think of Orson Welles as like that guy from the 40s, and then Transformers. It's like these two
Unicron.
things.
I mean, it's definitely the Transformers movies is definitely if you're into weirdo artifacts of pop culture dreck, worth an 80 minutes to watch. There's some wild stuff in there, and a Devo song.
Nice. Nice.
Awesome.
That's another tick in the okay box.
Yeah.
All right, we're 2 for 2. We're watching that one next.
All right, double feature. Yeah, I would be curious because when you initially sent me, when you said that you wanted to do this movie, I saw that it was like part of this Criterion box set of like that kind of like 60s Americana movies. Like I think you said Easy Rider's
like,
part of it.
Raffleson, Crew,
Oh, okay.
5 Easy Pieces is in there. I believe The King of Marvin Gardens. I got that as a wedding gift, but I haven't actually opened that. I watched it
Nice.
this time on YouTube.
Oh,
Okay.
I watched it on Tubi.
Yeah, I watched it on Tubi as
Tubi.
well.
With just the most jarring commercials, commercial placement.
I'm sure
Yeah,
it. I'm
it
sure
wasn't
it
as
fed
bad
into
as
the
some.
the surrealism
I was
of
gonna
the
say.
movie. It's almost a movie
Almost
that demands to be watched with
viewing
commercials.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since there's no on Tubi, there is no preparation for when it jumps to commercial. You'll be in the middle of a sentence sometimes, and it's just boom, you're in ads. And you're like, am I still watching the movie?
Yeah, right. How
Yes.
subversive.
I forget what it was, but it played 5 of the same like fabric softener ad or
That
something
seems
right
perfect.
in a row. And it was I was like, wow, this is kind of right in tune with
I
the movie's about.
I think we need to push for like you don't need like the 4K like Blu-ray. The truest best way to watch Head
Anything.
as the artist
Head.
intended is to watch it on Tubi.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly one of the reasons why I got so into this movie because, like, as I mentioned up top, like the first time I saw it was like scrolling late night TV at a friend's house after everybody else had gone to bed, and you know, in an era where maybe all I got was like the little info double click and was able to see Head, and it's like the 1968 movie by the Monkees, and like it was so immediately entranced, and it seemed like so out of space. And then, of course, being broken up by late night commercials for, you know, as seen on TV products and like, you know, prescription medication or whatever, that, you know, I wasn't, and not being able to like track down exactly what this was until several years later, that it always just
Right.
rattled around in my head as like this collection of insane images that I thought had something to do with the band The Monkees. And
Yeah.
then you like later being it's sticking with me long enough to, in that context, to track it down and be like, I need to watch that movie again. I keep thinking about it, and like, and that's how I became a hardcore fan. So yeah, I'd say late night TV with commercials is the optimal viewing experience for this.
Yeah, I totally feel like what how you just explained that is like that. That's such a like magical feeling that it's hard to get now because stuff is so easy to like research and look up. But like
Yeah.
I can't like name anything now, but I know I've had that with a few things where it's just something I watched when I was like 12 years old, didn't know the name or anything, and like just like random shit that I'll never know what it's called or whatever, but it's like I can picture it so perfectly in my head. It's just such a bizarre, I don't know, like viewing experience.
I had that on the 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. The guys in our room, it was like probably 1 a.m., 2 a.m. We were flipping through TV, and it's the scene in American Psycho where he's running down the hallway naked with a chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
That's the first time I experienced that movie.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
go back and get it in context.
Yeah.
Which by the time you get to it, you're like, yep, that's exactly what this movie is like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why, like, I don't know, I've seen like videos of like people showing like commercials from back then that would air at 3 a.m. and it's like a very similar feeling where it's like the 3 CD greatest love songs ever told. And then it's like I hear those songs and I'm like, oh, holy shit, like core memory unlocked. And I feel like that's kind of what like some of these newer Adult Swim shorts are going for, like Alan Resnick, some of his like the unedited footage of a bear.
Oh, I love that one so much. That one rocks with the Ed,
and it's just like that
Ed Schrader music beat song at the end.
Is that the "This Is My Sermon" like
yes,
that song?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh God, I love it. But it's like, yeah, that sort of like surrealism. But it's like, am I watching a commercial for something right now, or is this still part of the video?
Mm-hmm.
Like Too Many Cooks, even just like all that kind of shit. It's like, I feel like the head walked so those could fly. And like,
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Are
we good for scores?
Yeah. Is anyone good?
Anyone chomping at the bit to go first?
Good. I guess I can go first. Although I don't want to like set the. I feel like I'm gonna be the low bar, so I don't. Part of me feels like I shouldn't go first, but I guess I will. I'll say that like for our loyal listeners, this is reminiscent of our discussion on House, where I don't take away any of like what we said with like the importance or the influence that this movie had. I do think it's a really important staple of 60s culture. I totally feel like what you said about it being like that encapsulation of like culture in the time of like the late 60s, like 100%. I did really like it. I did really like enjoy most of it. I thought it was really funny. I think it was just a bit too disjointed. There was something keeping me from like really loving this movie. That said, it's something that I definitely would check out again. Revisit, and I could see me giving it a higher score on a rewatch. With that said, I'm going with a 6.5. That's what I settled on. I wasn't fluffing any of my notes or anything that I was saying. You guys heard how like enthusiastic I was about it. It's just kind of like, I guess going back to House again, like talking about it, I really enjoyed the conversation. I really loved talking about the movie, but like when I'm thinking of me sitting down and watching it, I laughed, I cried, hold me, Bob. But I just didn't, it just didn't get me as much as I was hoping. But yeah, so 6.5
fair.
for me. It's a good 6. I'll say that. It's a good 6.
I'll go next. I'm at a 9, and I'm going purely on like vibes alone that I like I watched it like today, and I think is with like the satire, I think that's what got me the most, and like the sort of like again the conversation that we had, like the cultural context of this movie and like who the Monkees are and like their image versus the reality and like the Hollywood machine and the anti-war stuff. It's laid on a little thick, but I mean it's like 1968. Like you can't really like judge it by today's like
also,
that's a little
the
on the
messengers
nose.
were
like
the Monkees.
yeah again. So yeah, probably would have been an 8, but Zappa was in it, so you get that.
Oh, you
so
get that
that's a
extra
9.
one? Hell yeah.
You got the extra credit with Frank.
Nice.
I don't know. I liked it a lot. I'll probably give it. I haven't really thought about a score. I don't know. 7.5, 8. I liked it a lot. I definitely revisit it again. I don't know that I caught everything. I don't think you can on one or 2 or 10 rewatches. It is cool reading some of the lore, not just behind the movie itself, but the Monkees and then, like everything around them. Michael Nesmith's mother invented liquid paper. I don't know if anyone else knew that. But
Wow.
But yeah, for that, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
First mom and
For
dad
liquid paper.
It's a useful invention.
Yeah.
I'll say, like, if I'm being super objective, like TJ, I think all your criticisms are super valid. It is very disjointed and at times doesn't quite hang together. And I think, like, if I'm being objective of the quality of this movie, I would probably put it around, like an 8 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, for like how much it's resonated with me, how many times I've come back and revisited it, how fascinating I find it, and how much it, like, aesthetically and its tone and its sense of humor just hits every spot for me. This is a 5-star 10-point banger for me. And
nice.
and one of the joys of it, that even maybe gets it over that last like 9.5 to a 10, is that it's such a good one to show to other people who have never seen it, who have like an interest in film, interested in culture, interested in music, interested in history. It just like hits all those points of being like, hey, do you want to see a fascinating artifact that you've almost assuredly not heard about before? It's a quick 86 minutes. Maybe even it drags a little bit of time, but if you've got some movie and schlock culture aficionado friends and you got 90 minutes to kill, it's on YouTube. It's a great one to show to somebody else, and it's always worth a revisit, because the more you watch, the more you're gonna remember all the little things, like the flashing title cards when he goes, "Nobody ever lends money to a man with a sense of humor."
Yeah, that's another good part. Yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, I don't even know if I would say that it drags, like, for me personally, because it's moving so fast it can't.
Yeah.
So
if you
it
don't
wasn't
like what's going on. Wait 90 seconds because something else will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, and I watched this a week ago. Maybe if I had watched this like today, I would have a more like specific example. But it wasn't like I was like out. I was paying attention the whole time. I was more or less like into it. It just didn't hit me enough to go up. But
Totally.
But yeah, I totally like respect, and yeah, go with your gut. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. Hell yeah. Like,
it's one of my favorite
yeah,
movies.
this is like, I think, like, the perfect kind of movie to bring into the show, because even though we had kind of varying scores, I think it was a really good discussion. There was so much to talk about it. So thank you so much for bringing this one in.
Yeah.
Of course, and I'm super glad actually that as I was just saying that none of you guys had seen it before, because it's a great one to bring a bunch of movie fans into blind.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna guess what this movie is like if you've not seen it before.
yeah, for sure.
100%.
Well, and we watched the Monkees like regularly as kids. I knew there was a Monkees movie. I didn't know it was this.
Yeah.
I didn't know the degree of which a movie it was.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of speaking of getting some head, here's an ad break. That kind of fits with how it goes. Are we back? I'm thinking we're back. That's Davy Jones, I guess, but he kind of sounds like Richard Ayoade a bit. I'm being meta. We didn't record a I'm thinking we're back thing, so I'm doing that now. Do you hear me, audience? I'm being meta, and I'm breaking the fourth wall. It's like I'm a monkey. Well, I am a monkey, actually. My Chinese. So okay. Maybe we should just cut that. Maybe we should include this. All right. Maybe this is gonna go in. Transition. Jesus Christ. I'm thinking we're back, and now cut to the. Yeah. Unless y'all have anything, I did list a few things.
Let me.
The only thing that, did you? I mean, I know this wasn't necessarily like the main plan, but did you have anything that you could like
Of just about what I've been watching recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, just anything like that.
Just like everybody, I've been watching the Dragon Show and the Elf Show. I think that when they both premiered, they were both kind of like, tepid response to it, and people are generally so down on like the end of Game of Thrones. I think people way undervalue or underrate the end of Game of Thrones. I think that almost all of that series is like, is it cool to talk about TV shows? Is this good?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think most of that series is a solid B plus, and then it maybe goes down to like a C plus at the end. But I like the Dragon Show. I think it. I am of course talking about House of the Dragon. I think. I think I appreciate that it's trying to tell the story of a single dynasty rather than of like war and something. It is a show about bloodlines and house drama. And it is a little more constrained and stuff. And the most recent episode did a time jump that is almost like a new pilot for the second pilot for the show in the middle. I think that people are going to get a lot more into it, and it's kind of dour and sleazy. And then the Elf Show has like, I don't think it's as good as the Lord of the Rings movies, but I will say for how much money it was reportedly spent on it, you can see it on screen. It has that Lord of the Rings like sheen, trademark Lex G, to it. That brings me back to everything I liked about Loader. It is more ornate and fanciful, and I think just between the two of them, I'm getting basically everything I need from fantasy on TV right now. So I'm having a great time existing in the fantastic worlds of the past.
And so, would you say House of the Dragon is like you said, Game of Thrones is like B plus, which I think I would generally agree with.
On average, if you average like all the episodes together.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you put House of the Dragon? Because I started Elf Show. I'm not that into it. I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Probably my favorite movie trilogy.
They're so good.
I can't really get into the show, and I was literally, we watched the third episode of that today, and I was like, as we were watching it, I was like, I wonder if House of the Dragon is good, because this just isn't doing it for me.
I guess my greater point is that together they're hitting everything for me.
Okay.
So I'm which is not really the most sterling recommendation to either of them, but it's like,
gotta watch
double shows equal one show.
Yeah.
Double the TV.
But it's like, I mean, they're both on, and I'm consuming them both. So I don't know. They're both like B minus now, but which I feel like sounds like a lower review than actual. But something has to be really good to be an A, and you don't really get that often. So
Yeah,
it's TV. Sure. Give me the slop. Give me the expensive high fantasy slop.
Yeah. All about that with TV. I'm way less of like a snob when it comes to TV. I'll watch all the garbage I can get.
I need it literally as something to take me from being kind of tired at 11 p.m. to ready to go to bed at midnight. That is the life utility that it is giving me. So as long as it's like decently entertaining, I'm happy with it. So
get it where you can.
People are too critical.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I think there we go. I think that's good. I think that's an episode.
I think we did it.
Before we go, I'll do next week's
movie.
Oh my
god, your cat is looking at the EV very like yeah.
So wait, you guys just like when you think of movies to do, you put them at the top and then you just pull one randomly out of the bottom?
Yeah. That's
I like that system.
If when we have guests on, I give them the opportunity to pick. If they don't, I'll just pull from here. But then otherwise, yeah, I'll say like probably 70 to 80% of these are mine, because I just went ham and I put like 200 movies in here. But yeah, it's kind of like a mixture of ours, and
nine times out of 10 they're like a foreign film documentary.
Yeah,
which all have been bangers. So
yeah, I think so. I literally, Nick, I just pulled Thirst. So.
That movie fucking rocks. Are you kidding me? That movie is awesome.
I guess for you guys, I already recommended that. So me and Nick are recording that episode tomorrow. Yeah, I really like that movie.
That movie's fucking intense. That movie rocks. High recommend.
Hell yeah. Oh, here you go. All right. This one is another kind of what is it? Like a textbook. Check off the homework. That's what we'll say. From 1996, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. We're gonna watch Hard 8 next week. It is the debut feature film.
That's the only one of his I haven't seen.
Same with me.
For
That's my only PTA blind spot. One day, and it's one of those things that I'm not racing to see because he's one of those directors that I'm always happy that there's one more out there that someday I'll be able to watch another PTA for my first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure
That day's coming to an end for me now.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah.
Well, that's one it didn't have an American Blu-ray release, so I had to find this Australian import that I got. It's a really cool version, but yeah, that movie is good luck finding it anywhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, makes a big Blu-ray head.
I'm trying to be for my wife and I, who got married 2 years ago, finally at our wedding this year, and in lieu of many an elaborate wedding gift registry, we just registered for 200 DVDs and Blu-rays on Amazon. So we just are.
That's an awesome idea, actually.
So we're just building out our physical media library right now, and I figured that would be the nug. And it's basically now, if I rent something on Amazon, if I go back to rent it again, I just buy it on Blu-ray or the highest quality I can get it.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. So if you don't want to be spoiled for Hard 8 before next week's episode, it's on Amazon Prime. It's also for rent on YouTube, Google Play, and more. So watch it there. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST in video form on YouTube and Twitch, and then in audio podcast form in the Apple Podcast, Spotify, and more. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I think that's it. Chris, do you want to plug yourself again, or?
In addition to all the junk I said up top, I also, I'm on tour with Chapo. I believe the Chicago date's sold out, but we'll be in L.A. on the October 8th. I don't know when this is coming out. New York, October 14th. Miami, technically Fort Lauderdale, on October 30th. These shows are going to be a lot of fun. I've booked some bands that are going to be playing a little bit at the top and during the intermission. We have stand-ups for all of them. And then also Matt and I are from Chapo are going to have another history series coming out toward the end of the year that we've been slaving over all year, and I think is going to be really good. It's a little more esoteric than the President's one, but I'm hoping to bring everybody on this journey with us. So got both of those.
I'm looking forward to it.
What's the subject, or can you not divulge it? I really like history podcasts, so.
It is called Hell on Earth, and it is the history of the 30 Years' War, specifically the long crisis of the 17th century in general, and in most broadly about the violent birth of capitalism through the demise of feudalism through from about 1500 to let's say 1688.
Sweet.
Sick.
I dig that. Some of those dynamic changes like that that's some of my favorite shit to read about, the fall of the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. One of my absolute favorite periods in history to read about.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of the way I'm trying to pitch it is it is about gnarly battles and halberd and arquebus violence on the battlefield and cool palace intrigue, but it's also about climate change and financial collapse and the decline of legitimacy among the elites and a new mass communication technology changing the way everyday people relate to their political overlords, and there's financial panics in it, and there's all sorts of stuff that has a lot of resonance with stuff going on right now.
Sweet. Awesome.
Nice.
I look forward to it.
Well,
Hell on Earth, hopefully out in November.
thanks again for joining us today and bringing in the movie. It was a lot of fun.
I had a great time, guys.
And with all that said, this is all I got in my head, even though it doesn't follow our usual format. Years ago, I knew a man, and his name was TJ, aka J Spot Jack Cheese, and with me, as always,
I am your surrendering Italian. A surrender. Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch, and with me as always.
I am not one of your standard brands. Bingo Bronson 420 at Twitter.
and
Nobody,
with us,
nobody ever lends money to a Chris with a sense of humor. I'm Chris Wade.
all right,
Awesome.
bye-bye.